Fabricamos talento. Fabricamos innovación. Y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía. Y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. And promoted by the Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.
Start the ride to the new economy with BNEW. 7 interconnected events that will boost knowledge, innovation, and networking in different professional sectors. Digital industry, real estate, mobility, talent, sustainability, investment, experience. A physical and digital meeting point to expand your networks and horizons. This year in the brand new D-Factory building. The journey to the new starts now. Barcelona New Economy Week.
Now it's the time of changes. Now is the time to move on. This is the time for solutions. Feel the motion. BNEW is born. BNEW, none of you. No one connected to you, BNEW, none of you. BNEW will do it for you. This is the time for solutions. BNEW is for you.
Hello, here we are again, as promised. This is Be Talent. We're going to start the last session of the day. That's called BMEDITERRANEAN, Talent for the Mediterranean, Youth, Innovation and Entrepreneurship. In a world of shrinking working age population, this could be an opportunity for full employment, but there's no guarantee for that. What is a safe value in terms of prosperity is innovation and entrepreneurship, because they have the ability to increase productivity in existing industries, create jobs, and transform economies and societies as well. That's what BNEW is showing up throughout this week. Let's focus now on the Mediterranean area. And for that, we have invited Dania Saliba.
Yes.
Excuse me. She has a bachelor degree in audiovisual communication, a master in education, and also a master in TV fiction writing. She has extensive experience in advertising, writing scripts, and directing documentary films. In fact, I saw that she was awarded by the Barcelona Visual Sound Audience in 2018 for the documentary Al Aman, Barcelona, Beirut. Nowadays, she combines her writing with her work as a corporate communications and social media network officer at ASCAME, the Association of the Mediterranean Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So, welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll see what these speakers will show us, okay? Thank you very much for coming. And
Thank you, Anna.
All yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, indeed, I'm Dania, and I am in charge of communications at the Association of Mediterranean Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which is quite a mouthful, so we usually say ASCAME. And we are at the talent stage at BNEW, and so we are going to talk about talent, but in relation to the Mediterranean and to youth, entrepreneurship, and so on. And to do so, we have an amazing panel with us. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I think I'm going to start introducing the three of you. Then I'm going to give a few pointers about the topic, and then we can get back to you. That's okay. First of all, we have Farid Salami. here with us. He's the founder and CEO at International Strategic Management, INC, and Connecting Dots globally. He's a business advisor at Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program and special advisor for other initiatives and programs. And he hosts the FinGen podcast and show and works with international leaders and entrepreneurs on strategies and implementations to create an empowering environment for startups and existing businesses to grow. Welcome, Faris. Next, we have Amel Saidan. Please correct me if I didn't pronounce it right. Was that correct? Thank you. She's an engineer in electrotechnics and an entrepreneur, ecosystem builder, and digital transformation expert. She's president of Tunisian Startups, the association giving a voice to the startup ecosystem, and she's the founder of BetaCube, a venture builder. She also acts as management consultant, specializing in digital transformation and business strategy. And before that, she has acted in different roles related to sales and client relationship for Microsoft, Siemens, and Nokia. Welcome. And finally, last but not least, we have Lucas Martinez, who is the co-founder and co-CEO of Talent.com, a job search platform that aims to connect the world to work. And before that, he worked as an enterprise resource planning consultant, as well as in software sales in North America, Europe, the Asia Pacific, and the Middle East. He co-founded Talent.com with Maxime Dro and Benjamin Filion, yeah, more or less. And they managed to turn Talent.com from a small startup to the global 150 million enterprise it is today. Welcome. So I'm gonna just give a general context for the audience so they understand where we are coming from. I think I would like to start by talking about what talent is, or what we understand as talent when it comes to business and when it comes to work. And I mean, my definition would be that it's like an amalgam of employees' skills, knowledge, ability, potential, values, and even preferences. But I would love to hear if you have a different definition. And when it comes to the Mediterranean, we find conflicting trends. On one hand, obviously, we're going through global transitions, digital and green transitions, for example. But there are opposite trends when it comes to demographics. So in the European Union, we are going to face very soon a workforce replacement need. The thing is that in southern Mediterranean countries, it seems like youth is going to grow exponentially. But Mediterranean countries are being perceived as underperforming when it comes to providing jobs for their youth. So I will be very interested to know what you think about what are the skills that we need today and that we are going to need in the future. And also not only how we can create more jobs, but also how we can create better jobs, more decent jobs, and how we can better train our youth and close the gap between education and the labor market. And especially in the current times of crisis that we're living with, COVID and energy insecurity and food insecurity and all of that. So I would like to start by asking the three of you the same question, which is basically, since the three of you are helping talent develop, my question is how exactly and why? What made you identify youth and entrepreneurship as something that was key for the development of society? I don't know if Lucas, if you want to start.
So the question would be
what does your company do to help entrepreneurship, basically, and youth?
Yeah, so when you look at Talent.com as a company, we're 500 people, but today there's around 500,000 people that find a job every single month on the platform. And what we see like online right now in the trends, and we see this first in North America, where we're extremely present, and then we see it happening in Europe a few months after, is that white-collar jobs are starting to slowly decelerate a bit. And so they post-COVID, like we could see like a lot of white-collar jobs increasing extremely fast and filling up, specifically in the IT and the engineering space kind of industries. And we saw blue-collar jobs taking off slowly. And we're still, in North America and in Europe, a bit more like, in terms of jobs, blue-collar jobs are still pre-level. It's lower than what we had before COVID. But what we start seeing is that with a potential recession happening, we start seeing white-collar jobs decelerating, but white-collar jobs, blue-collar jobs, sorry, keep on increasing. And so this is very interesting because we've seen blue-collar jobs increasing for the last few years, but at the current rate is really interesting. We don't see an end. We see most of our clients want to keep on increase those blue-collar positions and not as much on the white-collar jobs. So there's a lot of redundancy, specifically on the work-from-home policies, and we start seeing every time more clients and more demand on the healthcare industry, the light, light industrial workers type of industry, as well as the hospitality industry, retailers as well. We start seeing all those industries really increasing at this end of the year, despite a potential recession, and those white-collar jobs slowly decreasing.
Great. Faris?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think talent, especially for the youth, is really key because we might not be thinking about what's going to happen over the next 20 years, but we do know one thing, that the youth will be in charge 20 years from now or 30 years from now. So I think it's really key to keep focusing on developing the youth and investing in them, whether it's education, whether it's skills or whatever. And I think one of the things that we have noticed over the last few years is really the shift from what I'm going to call technical skills to, they call them soft skills, but I like to call them powerful skills. And it's becoming clearer because of COVID the last 2 years, most people have forgotten how to interact with each other or be around other people. So the soft, I call it powerful skills, are even much needed. You could easily train and teach someone on how to operate a machine. It is really harder to train a person to change their behavior to work with some other person. That usually takes somewhere between 7 to 10 years span. So there is a big emphasis on really making sure that the individuals are learning how to be more with the powerful skills working. And that is actually an opportunity for so many countries today because you could easily do a lot more. And I think there has been a shift, just like Lucas stated, with this whole industry. It used to be, I call it Industry 3.0 or 2.0, and as the German calls it today, Industry 4.0. It's not about you working or the machine is working, it's about us finding ways to work with the machines. And I think these softer skills become even more needed in such times.
Great, thank you. And Amel?
Yeah, thank you, Dania. Hi, everyone. So why I've chosen to work on startups and entrepreneurships, it's actually the equation is pretty easy and kind of obvious. Startups account for more than 20% of employments and 50% of new job creations. And if you consider transformational startups, they will account for more than 22%, somewhere between 20 and 50% of new job creations in Europe. And the potential is even bigger on the southern part of the Mediterranean. Because if you look at the population, in the MENA region, for instance, you'll see that more than 2/3 of the population are under the age of 35. 30. So this youth bulge can be transformed from a challenge for the whole region, by the way, not only for the countries of the southern Mediterranean. It's a challenge for the northern part as well, of course. So how do we transform this into an opportunity with all the potential that the youth is bringing to the conversation, to the table? So startups and entrepreneurships are a topic that I'm tackling from two perspectives: from the policy making perspective, as president of the Startup Association, we want to work on more conducive policies, better policies for entrepreneurs and for startups in the countries, because they are startups are kind of more fragile, volatile organizations. They have less resistance than incumbents to challenges in terms of policies related to doing business, to job creation, to bankruptcy management, etc., etc. So we're working on policies that can transform the ecosystem into a conducive one for startups. We can discuss this more later on. And as an entrepreneur, through the Venture Builder, I try to create to aggregate success factors for entrepreneurs at the very early stage, the idea stage, to create startups and scale them up and move them to the market, towards market validation and fundraising, so that they can move through this risky process as successfully as possible. And I think quality startups can be a great starting point to create jobs, but also to create wealth to the countries and the region.
Fantastic, thank you. And you say that they are a good starting point startups are a good starting point to create jobs. Do you want to talk more about that, like how exactly?
Absolutely. So when we talk about this creating jobs, we can take examples like because very often startups are associated with innovation, technology that is very often associated with this the job destruction. However, what we're noticing is the creation of a new types of jobs, be it direct or indirect. If we consider, for example, the delivery solutions or ride-hailing solutions, they are creating a new gig economy and new types of jobs, like the startup Careem, for instance, that was acquired by Uber. It's the ride-hailing platform of the Egypt and the Middle East. They have created since their early stages in 2012. They have created more than 3,500 direct jobs and 850,000 indirect jobs. So knowing that this that we have on the other side a real challenge to create insufficient but also quality jobs for our youth, this could be actually a solution. And then if we look at the startup scene in the MENA region, 4 years ago we had 3,000 startups in all MENA according to the Magnet numbers, and today we count more than 25,000 startups, and the trend is clearly exponential. So if we really focus on this part of the value creation and job creation, this could really offer a new alternative, knowing that according to statistics, more than 50% of youth who are interested in, so new entrant into the job market, are ready to accept lower salaries to work for a startup. So working for a startup is something getting really cool and interesting, not even for founders, but also for people who work for these startups. And if we look on the other side, that this region, so the southern part, is producing a lot of tech talent that are not being able to find proper jobs or interesting enough jobs in their countries, and that they are moving systematically to the north, because Europe is in need of over 1 million tech talents right now. So in order for us to keep the balance in the region and keep enough talent in the southern Mediterranean and offer opportunities wherever they are, we could consider really working on better policies for startups to offer equal opportunities for everyone.
Thank you. Perfect. So Faris, how would you say that we should or could engage these young entrepreneurs in the Mediterranean then?
Well, thank you. I think there are lots of ways to engage them. I think one of the ways to engage them is expose them to such wonderful programs and ideas. And I think another way to engage them is to really get them involved in a younger age. A lot of times we're waiting for people to finish college or something like that to get them involved in internship or fellowship. I think we could start that a little earlier today, and it could be an internship or a fellowship or a day spending with individuals. But I think we really need to expand it also beyond tech. Because if you go to the airport today, there's a shortage of everything. There's a shortage of people who are handling the luggage. There's a shortage of people who are wanting to, process your passport. Mm-hmm. There's a shortage really everywhere. I think we need to focus on what can we do to just engage them in this whole sphere of work. And I love what Amel said about the whole working for something. Actually, I call it the purpose economy. So it used to be a living economy, meaning I want to work where I live and live where I work, and people moved for that. And today they move and live where they have a purpose, or they feel that their purpose of life being fulfilled. So startups and businesses, if they start today advertising and announcing why they do something for the humanity in general and for the community specifically, then they're going to find more people engaged in the purposeful meaning of the work that they're performing. So I think making sure that they are advertising why they exist, how they do business, why they do business, those kinds of things you'll see bubbling up more. And we're noticing that in all kinds of movements around the world of people wanting certain governments or certain institutions to stop discrimination or to stop behaving in a certain way because they believe in the purpose that they're living for. So I think that would be one other way to engage them, is cultivating the idea of why these companies exist by helping these individuals understand why they exist, so therefore they're engaged more.
Amazing. Purpose economy. I love that concept. Thank you. And Lucas, Faris has mentioned mobility. So what are the trends right now in that regard, in mobility and talent mobility?
So I think this is a very interesting conversation. So we come from a very North American background, and we see what happens in North America, specifically in Canada and the US, and we see it happening here in Europe as well. But what we started seeing while COVID and after COVID is that we started seeing a lot of people from the north moving south, basically, and that started already in the US, the trend from California to Florida, Tennessee, Texas, for many reasons, right? Tax reasons, quality of life reasons, many reasons, political reasons as well. We started seeing this trend in many type of jobs, and specifically a lot of jobs now being remote, right? So a lot of people are moving there, and then we started seeing a trend also from people that emigrated to North America or Northern Europe and decided to go back to their countries. So we started seeing a lot of people actually looking for jobs from the US, from Canada, in Italy, in Spain, in Tunisia, in Algeria, in all those Mediterranean countries, because there were people that actually moved for better opportunities to other places, and then thought like, hey, I can actually do my job from wherever, right? So we've started seeing those shifts. And the reality is for entrepreneurs, it's the same thing, right? I think that now entrepreneurs, before, look at us, like we moved to North America to create something because we thought that we would never have the opportunity in Europe 10 years ago when we first started. But this is shifting. We start seeing a lot of entrepreneurs not only starting from here, because like if you look at Spain, for example, and specifically Barcelona, where you have historically a lot of entrepreneurship going on here. And so this is changing. Now they feel that they can actually do it from here. And so not only that, but you start seeing other entrepreneurs actually moving here to start companies, like ex-entrepreneurs. So we start seeing a shift, and we're in the middle of something new here, particularly in Spain, which is what I've been following the most in the last couple of years. And I'm starting seeing a lot of entrepreneurs moving here and entrepreneurs from here, really thinking that they can make it from here and decide to base their operations from here. Because the reality is that no matter what, in this remote world, we will have different hubs. Maybe not one large hub, but different hubs in different places. And yes, you will need to be in the US. Yes, you will need to be in London. But the reality is that you can have a hub here.
You've mentioned Spain. Do you want to talk a bit more about that? Like how's the startup ecosystem here?
So I think that we definitely in the beginning is something incredible here that maybe didn't exist before. One thing for sure is that you wish, like the newspapers will love entrepreneurs as much as they love football, and it might take some time, but at some point we'll get there. But again, like not only do I see more Spanish companies being funded by outside VCs and VCs here from Catalonia, like THCAP and others, but we see again like a lot of entrepreneurs coming from abroad to start something here, because the quality of life here is unparalleled. If you look at all the statistics from like expats, living, Spain is always up there. So I think that right now, Barcelona and Madrid and other ecosystems in Spain have a unique opportunity to really capitalize on being in this amazing geography, have great security, have great social care. I think we have the education right now, as good of an education as most countries around the world. So the infrastructure is here. There is just a need for the politics now to make sure that we incentivize, this kind of behavior, incentivize more entrepreneurship, and see big. Like a lot of, and this is not only Spain, but I think this is the whole of Europe. A lot of European companies, when they start, like if you're in France, the first idea is to go to the UK. Same with Germany. Same here in Spain. You think about going to France, and I think we need to change that mentality and actually look at scale. And when a product works, you should look at your biggest market, and your biggest market is straight away the US. Also, if you look at Europe, you can go straight to Europe, but like we should have that reflex to scale a lot faster. And to finish, I think we need a lot more larger VCs, and so that's going to happen with successes that are going to happen here from entrepreneurs that are going to reinvest, because right now there are a lot of VCs, but not enough for scale-ups.
Fantastic. Amel, Lucas has mentioned what's attractive about the Mediterranean for entrepreneurs. Would you say that there are specific challenges here that make the region different? And would you say that is it different for women, and what are women contributions to the startups and the entrepreneurship ecosystem in the Mediterranean?
Well, yeah, I totally share this the idea of Lucas of having our space as Mediterranean as an attractive space for the digital communities who are actually creating a new governance for the world. You belong to a community more than, in the meanwhile, more than you belong to a country as an entrepreneur. So you find you try to find like-minded in the cloud, but these like-minded people will have to have a physical anchor at some point, and the physical anchor can be offered by a space that is so nice to live in, with great food, great weather, and a lot of course, incentivizing policies. But of course, we have a lot of challenges that we are facing today that needs to be and still need to be solved. For instance, like the access to bigger markets, like Lucas just mentioned, we need to find ways to scale up faster. And if you look at countries in the MENA region, in North Africa, in Africa, even though Africa is being considered as a huge market, but it's a still fragmented market. So it's an accumulation of more or less small markets that and the scalability is of course inhibited by challenges in terms of interoperability of legal frameworks, let alone when the legal frameworks in the countries are a challenge for the startups. Another challenge stays of course the access to adequate financing. If you look at the southern Mediterranean region, the ecosystems are more in the early stages, so the pipelines, it's more of an early stage type of pipeline, attracting seed funding at this stage, but we need to be able to attract more of scale-up fundings. So VC funding is growing a lot in North Africa and Africa, mainly Africa, in some hotspots like Nigeria, South Africa, Egypt, and Kenya. But the North African region is still requires some more adequate financing. So, and having access to the right financing is, of course, an accelerator of growth of the startup ecosystem. This is a challenge particularly for women who are, like everywhere in the world, still not being able to access or not having the level field opportunities, especially when it comes to accessing VC funding, because in the last 10 years we've been discussing this year in, year out, but the percentage of VC funding that goes to women is still somewhere around 2 to 3%, which is a shame, really, considering the opportunity that women bring to the table. If you look at the MENA region, for example, if women would access the same opportunities, the GDP of the region would increase by 2 trillion. So it's 75% of the GDP of the region. So I think we cannot afford as a region to lose or to ignore this potential, and we need to actively do something about that. So the solutions are practical and easy. And then if you look at a country like Tunisia, you'll see that the number of startups that are co-founded or founded by women is 35%, which is very interesting compared to countries in even the US or Europe, where the percentage is more around 15%. However, there are specific challenges that need to be solved, because you'll find women as a CEO or leader of the startup, around 5% of them are led by women. So we need to dig deeper into the practicalities and into the reality of things, and see how we can address collectively this challenge, because this will impact, of course, the economies in the southern Mediterranean, but also, again, it's all connected. So, and it's particularly connected in the space of the startups, because the boundaries are vanishing. They're almost non-existing, which is an opportunity to attract even more investment and foreign direct investments.
Fantastic, thank you. And Fariz, are there any global or local trends that you would like to comment on related to talent?
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much. I think interesting enough, just because of my work, I'm lucky enough to work in the entrepreneurship ecosystem space with small business development. I get to work with both leaders in the government or the institutions, I'm going to call it, and then the people on the streets that are moving or hustling daily. And what's nice to see today is there's actually a shift. And I think COVID helped it a lot in so many ways. And I'm, of course, sorry for COVID itself, as well as the effect that it made. In the same time, it really made some advantages for people to find their purpose, like we were saying earlier. And now we're seeing big trends. What are the trends? Just like Lucas said, other cities are bubbling up that they never would, people would not even consider to go to, because they'd either go to San Francisco or they go to where the money's at. They're just working with what they have, and then the money's just following them. That's because people are finding their purpose and they're working harder for it. So what I'm seeing big trends on is newer cities emerging, and some of the, I'm going to call them old infrastructure cities that were taking it for, let's just say, granted that they're so big and growing, that those things are, people are paying attention to other places. You will find that the ecosystem, and I just blogged about this a couple of weeks ago, is going to shift. You're going to start seeing other cities today bubbling up to the top 10 in ecosystem development, and some of the top ones falling behind. I will say that it also sometimes might take 10 years for the documentation of those things to happen. I'm lucky enough to see it on the ground just because I'm visiting these places and talking to people and listening to what's happening. So I predict that that's going to continue to go and grow, that more smaller places caring about what they have and trying to highlight it to be more and more happening all over the place. And some of the older places that have been, let's just say, call it statue of things there for a long time, starting to slowly crumble down. So, and I'm hoping that they don't. I'm hoping that they find a way to recover themselves, but if they don't, they might. That's what I'm seeing, the trends of a new emerging markets, a new life everywhere, a new beginning to many cities and countries right now. It's a huge opportunity.
Fantastic. Related to that, the European Institute for the Mediterranean talks about, I think they call it top-down investments. Yes, and basically it means that European and North American transnational companies invest in all the Mediterranean countries because labor is cheaper and the production processes are easier, basically. And I guess my question is, how do you value these kind of investments? But also, do you think that there are interesting alternatives, like, for example, SMEs formed by both engineers, entrepreneurs, and angel investors from both sides of the Mediterranean, maybe working on a more horizontal type of structure?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. So if you look at it, I think it's not necessarily cheaper. I think people are going to where they believe they have fulfillment for their livelihood and for what they do. I think that's really, it became clear to me as I saw people, kind of like Lucas said, they're moving from North America to South America. Most people, they say, why would you do that? Well, because they discovered through the process of the last few years that what am I doing this for? That's not what I want to be or what I want to do. So they go to where they want to be and what they want to do. And I think there are opportunities that were missed, and I think there are opportunities now to catch up with it, which is investing in the small and medium businesses. For the most, if you looked at before 2020, most investments, big investments, really went to startups, really went to a big emphasis on getting new ideas to move up, getting new things to move up. And the reality is a lot of the small and medium businesses were somewhat left behind unless they came up with a new tech idea. And today you're starting to see that there's an opportunity to really fuse the money in the existing businesses, but also we don't want to forget the startups, which I think the world did for almost 9 months. And although I was saying, please don't forget them because they still need the help, they shifted to supporting the SMEs. So today I think the opportunity would be balance between startup communities and small and medium enterprise communities and how we could fund both of them at the same time without saying this has more value than another because they both have values. And the third thing I would say is to really look at, I'm going to call it non-tech-based entrepreneurship, or I like to usually call it place-based entrepreneurship. So this is where people are opening a retail store, a baker, or a coffee shop. And a lot of times people look down at these things, and from my perspective, that's usually what brings the economy or the engine of the economy in those communities that potentially cultivate the culture of a startup business to be a tech or non-tech later in the future.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Lucas, would you say that there are common strategies that Mediterranean countries can implement together to foster youth and talented youth in the Mediterranean?
That's a tough one. I'm a proponent of federalism, so I love competition. You know, so
right.
I think that the fiscal policies, you know, like the tax policies that we've seen in Portugal and Spain and other countries in Europe as well and around the world, are really helping that ecosystem. Because it helps people, entrepreneurs, come here and say like, okay, I'm going to make a bet and come here. If anything, I think we should have, as Europeans, you know, strategies to come up with investment in some industries. A good example is like, I think that the space industry. If you look at what's happening in the US, we're investing a lot there, right? Like, and so a lot of startups are happening there, and in Europe, we're pretty much left behind. Mm-hmm. If you look at Ariane, we're sending a rocket very soon without a launcher, and that launcher can't come back. When you think about it, it's a new program. So I think that we need to look at overall industries and what are the industries that we want to invest in. As countries, yes, but also as Europeans, because some industries require a lot of infrastructural investment, and we're not there. But that's not something we do right now. And I think this required a lot of conversations at the EU level to make sure that we make it happen. But besides that, again, I think that there's so much to do. If you look at like in the last Y Combinator cohort in 2022, we've never seen so many European companies coming in there, but the reality is like we're still so far away from the numbers that the US produce. And so this is what we need to focus right now. Is like, hey, let's foster entrepreneurship in our own countries. Let's make sure that instead of having 3 companies in Spain, we have 10 next year. And so that's how we go about it.
Fantastic. Okay. And let's see, Amel. I mean, how would you define exactly what your company does, and how do you think it relates to the skills of young people?
On mute. I'm on mute. Okay. Allow me, before we go into that, to jump into the same question as to complete the perspective from the other side of the Mediterranean. I think as countries of the Mediterranean, it's in the interest of all countries to think of common strategies to allow a new type of thinking that builds bridges between the countries. Because having these virtual communities, digital communities are so open to collaboration and to being part of the same one vision. So having new perspectives also to defining the world of work and how we collaborate on achieving common goals for the region is also something we should be actively working on, besides the fact of mobility of people and how these strategies will be impacting positively mobility of people while offering equal opportunities to everyone. Now back to what I do and how I try to leverage the skills. So my company is Venture Builder. So what we try to build is our quality startups. So we avail all the success ingredients, support, funding. So it's like a hybrid between funding and between a VC and an incubator to make sure that startups go as fast as possible from the idea stage to validated and successful VC, successful startup that can go to the next level. What kind of skills we need there are, of course, all the combined skills entrepreneurs need to succeed, and this is where we come in a personalized way to fill in the gaps in terms of skills. So wherever personalized coaching is required, this is exactly what we do. We open doors, but we also, of course, work on our own skills to identify the right entrepreneurs that have the best chances to succeed, to identify the right product market fit, and of course we work on supporting creating communities in the ecosystem, because an ecosystem can only work if the different components of the ecosystem are connected and working properly together.
Fantastic, thank you. I think we have time for a last very quick question. I think I'm just going to throw it there, and whoever wants to answer can answer. Basically, we are at the Barcelona New Economy Week, so let's talk about that. How do we put talent at the service of new economy in the Mediterranean? Is it too abstract as a question, or?
I'd like to start with this. So I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is a lot of times we focus only on one type of talent or one way of talent. And I think when you walk through Barcelona, or, since it's BNEW or Barcelona New Economy, you can really see the new economy everywhere, right? People are learning new skills, people are learning new ideas, and I think we need to maybe put it out there, such a program like this, but also programs that will help people understand that a technology coming in or a new thing coming in should not be scary. When the teller machines came to the banking world, people thought, I'm going to lose my job because now everybody's just going to want to go to the teller machine. Reality is banks opened more branches than ever with the teller machine. Same thing happened with agriculture. Same thing is happening with driving, with Uber. I mean, all of these things, initially, they look like a threat for the individuals. And I think talent needs to be reminded that no matter what happens, people are still needed. People are going to still be wanted. But the key is to have these skills that is needed for the new jobs. I usually say jobs don't change, they shift. So as they shift, people need to shift with them, and talent needs to be aware of that. So shedding a light on what new opportunities are coming, investing in the youth, making sure that they're exposed to these ideas, because we could be training today individuals on jobs that don't even exist 10 years from now. So how do we help them to understand you need to learn how to learn versus learn this one skill I'm going to teach you today?
Thank you, Faris. I don't know if Lucas...
I'll try this one. I'll be a bit more pragmatic on this one. So I'll give you an idea. I think upskilling is really what matters the most right now, and I think governments are doing a very poor job at it. And since the last 7 years, and this hasn't really changed, it's getting slowly better. For every receptionist jobs, you have 10 people applying for that job. For every BI job, you have 0.1 person applying for the job, right? And so this is a massive mismatch of the economy, or the demand and the offer. And so this is what we need to work on right now. Is like governments need to recognize what does the economy need. And we have the tools are here right now. The data is live. We can actually know exactly what jobs are available, what are people searching for, and what does the economy need, right? And what does the economy need in the future? What are the percentage of jobs of this job being automated in the future, right? Do you really want to get a truck driver job when in 20 years it's not going to be existing anymore? These are the type of things that government needs to get better, and this is what the private is trying to solve right now, like companies such as ours. And this is what we need to be doing right now, is to better educate our youth about like what's available out there, what pays well, what are the jobs of the future, and make sure that we train them, that the opportunities to train are there. And this is, I think, something that we're currently failing at.
Thank you, Lucas. Amel, any final?
Yeah, absolutely. So totally agree that we need to find more intelligent ways to prepare the talent of today to reskill or continuously learn new capabilities, because we, like Faris said, we don't know what kind of jobs will be there out there in the coming few years actually. So being prepared for this lifelong learning is actually something we need all to work on, private sector, public sector. And then we probably as countries should reconsider continuously applauding ourselves that we have a lot of talent in the region, because the question is talent to do what kind of so this mismatch again, I think this is a massive challenge in the whole continent of Africa, because we're thinking of ways where we can direct existing talents where the opportunities are, and reducing barriers for this talent to have access to the right opportunities, something also we need to work on, because there is some unequal distribution of concentration of talent that is not finding opportunity, while markets are big on other sides. So and of course, this can be enabled by technology, because analytics will allow faster decision making. But the challenge is always with policies and legal frameworks that are typically much slower than the evolution of markets, and even slower today.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you, the three of you, for being here with us. And Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dania. Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing your knowledge and your experience in this area. Thank you, Faris, Amel, Lucas, y Dania. And thank you, all of you, for being here and sharing your time as well. We end this first day of the BNEW. And we will wait you here at 10 in the morning with the panel Be Gamer. We'll talk about the game industry in Spain. We have all these challenges and opportunities. Let's get profit and get notes of that. Okay, see you tomorrow. Thank you for being there.
Fabricamos talento. Fabricamos innovación y, cómo no, sostenibilidad. Fabricamos una nueva economía y un mundo nuevo, en 3D, por supuesto. Pero sobre todo, fabricamos futuro. Y es que fabricamos empleo para más de 137.000 trabajadores. Fabricamos oportunidades globales de negocio en un espacio de más de 10 millones de metros cuadrados. Y fabricamos servicios de vanguardia y ventajas competitivas para más de 175 empresas. Consorcio de la Zona Franca. Fabricamos oportunidades para tu futuro.
Welcome to D-Factory, the factory that develops talent, technology, innovation, and of course in the heart of Barcelona. After all, D-Factory is consolidating Barcelona as a European capital of development for Industry 4.0, for digitalization, for transformation, creating 1,500 direct jobs and 5,000 indirect jobs in the city, close to the metro, the harbour and the airport. And promoted by the Consorcio de la Zona Franca de Barcelona.
Start the ride to the new economy with BNEW. 7 interconnected events that will boost knowledge, innovation, and networking in different professional sectors. Digital industry, real estate, mobility, talent, sustainability, investment, experience. A physical and digital meeting point to expand your networks and horizons. This year in the brand new D-Factory building. The journey to the new starts now. Barcelona New Economy Week.